Okay, hi everyone, I'm Zach. Thanks for staying to see my presentation. I really will try and be super fast so we can get on to enjoying the rest of the evening. So I'm an artist and I'm also working on my PhD at Duke University, and I'll try and make this presentation really good because Kate Hales is here and she's my advisor, and I don't think she's ever seen me give a presentation before like this, so I guess the pressure's on. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a work. It's actually great presenting this project here because, like Jaime said, in 2011, I did this short workshop at the Media Lab Prado on devisualization, and the kind of very first seeds for this project began there. And I guess I work really slow as an artist because it took me 2 years to get to this point, but it has developed quite a bit since then. So I'm going to share how that project has developed and then what I'm going to be moving towards after that. Okay, so the work I'm going to talk about today basically mostly centers around biometrics, mask protest, and queerness. And the way that I came through this project to deal with biometrics and mask was actually thinking about larger struggles around opacity and transparency. And just to give you some examples, you could think of Anonymous performing hacktivist interventions in disguise, WikiLeaks attempting to make parent government corruption through kind of surreptitious tactics, or so basically with WikiLeaks and Anonymous, you have this kind of I guess duality between transparency and opacity. And the design collective Metahaven has called this black transparency, this play between camouflage and transparency. But also now, in light of the NSA and PRISM, right, you could also think about data mining, the NSA attempting to gather data on the world, and then you can think of how I put this organization called Tor, which develops kind of a cryptographic web browser that allows you to evade kind of internet traffic analysis. So trying to give all these examples is basically trying to highlight around issues around technological control and surveillance and informatic capture. There's kind of a duality at work between political revolts that organize around opacity, illegibility, invisibility, and then these issues of attempting to make certain things transparent. Okay, so within this, there has recently been a set of different tactics are echoed around this about making the self opaque. So I have some different quotes here for you. The first one is by a Western philosopher, Irving Goh, and he has this essay called A Prologue of Memnon to a Right to Disappear, and he talks about this this fundamental right we should have to be able to disappear from the guise of surveillance. Then the next quote is by the late Martinique philosopher Edward Glissant, and he has this writing on opacity, which is mainly in the aesthetic ethical realm. So his idea about becoming opaque is more about an ontological or ethical insistence on the uncalculability or measurement of otherness and alterity. So these different, and then this last one, the right to silence, it's an older quote from Roland Barthes, but I put it there because in a recent book called Opacity in the Closet, which came out in 2011, I believe, by a US queer theorist, Nicolas de Villiers, he takes this idea from Roland Barthes of a right to silence to be able to articulate this concept he has of queer opacity. But I think these kind of different philosophical trajectories about attempting to become opaque are really interesting if you kind of bring them into the realm of surveillance and informatic capture, because they would certainly be about refusals of surveillance, but they're also kind of about much larger issues about political visibility and how one is represented and interpreted and understood. So I was really struck by this work on opacity and thinking about it in relation to different types of surveillance like biometrics. And I kind of was paying attention to all the mass protests that was happening, that's been happening all over the world. And mass protests to me seemed like a really crucial example of this idea of attempting to make the self opaque as a form of political refusal. And as I move into talking about biometrics, when you think about the mask and covering the face and how it relates to opacity, this also presents a kind of different ethical model of the face. So much ethical philosophy around the face from Butler and Agamben and Levinas is all about exposure. It's about exposing the face being exposed to another face through a face-to-face encounter. But these examples of mass protests that are happening all around the world kind of encourage us to think about an ethics of the face around opacity or defacement, escaping the face from Deleuze and Guattari, or something like imperceptibility. But importantly, as I'm talking about these ideas of making the self opaque, they are in these kind of collective contexts, and these tactics of opacity are not just about simple individual disappearing acts. There's something positive about this as well. There's something about collective transformation, which you can certainly see with mass protests, because the mask becomes this catalyst for groups gaining some type of collective consistency. And as I began to kind of study this confluence of mask protests, these philosophies and theories around opacity, actually a set of mask legislation kind of began to slowly emerge. So in September 2011, right when Occupy Wall Street was starting in Zuccotti Park, the NYPD resurrected this 1845 anti-mask law, which deemed if two or more people were wearing masks in public, it was illegal unless a masquerade ball was being thrown. And then more recently, Canada has just passed this bill C-309, which is kind of commonly referred to as the Concealment of Identity Act. And with the passage of this law, you can go to prison for up to 10 years if you wear a mask at a public protest or a riot. So these became really fascinating to me because it almost proved the state's investment in having people be visible in particular ways, and how seriously they take the threat of being illegible or being opaque or just not being recognizable. And the design group Metahaven has done amazing work around this, and they call this our current face state. And basically what the idea of face state is about how today the face has turned from a previously prized site of alterity and ethics to now a site of governmentality and instrumentalization. So as I kind of continued moving on through this, I began to find a massive cluster of theoretical material around these ideas of opacity and illegibility. I'm just going to kind of run through them super quickly so you have some idea of the theoretical mess this is all coming out of. So within queer theory, literally within the past maybe 2 or 3 years, there has been a surge of work around ideas of refusing recognition, refusing certain forms of political visibility. So Queerness as Escape comes from Jose Muñoz's recent work, Cruising Utopia, and he's taking escape from Paulo Virno's work around the exodus and desertion. You have Queer Opacity, which I already mentioned, from Nicolas de Villiers, Queer Darkness from Jack Haberstam's recent work, The Queer Art of Failure, and Queer Devisualization, which actually was Jaime's work back in 2011 when I was first here. In political theory, again, you have the idea of the exodus, which comes out of an autonomous Marxist tradition and has been most recently popularized by the work of Hart and Negri. Illegibility